All right.
All right.
It's all about shit today. I want to start, which is something I wouldn't normally do, but with the kind of, I suppose we might call them character instructions or something at the top of the text that you've written. And I'm going to read them out for the benefit of the viewers. There's not a single moment when the three young women transcend their ugliness. There's no indication of a better or in fact any inner life. They don't believe in anything. They're mean, down-mouthed, downtrodden, hard-bit, utterly damaged women. They're neither salt of the earth nor sexy. They love no one and no one loves them. They believe the world is shit, that their lives are shit, that they are shit. It's a fantastic provocation.
Oh, good.
Great way to... I mean, when I first read that, I was like, whoa, and turn the page. But I'm just wondering, first of all, whether that was a departure point for you, or whether that was something that happened after the play was sort of swimming around in your head, or where do those words come from? How do they relate?
That's definitely a departure point. That's the beginning. So I suppose it is a bit of an instruction, or not a bit, it is an instruction, and it's probably to the director as well as the actors that that I don't want any sentimentality, that I don't want them to be let off the hook. They are like the women that we see in the tram that we bury our heads in our books or we get off. Yeah. They are. There's no saving them through sexiness. There's no saving them because they're actually poor buggers at heart. There's just no saving them because theatrically, that's such a hard place, really hard, because you go to the theatre and it's very difficult to look at people that you hate, that you don't want to have anything to do with. So, but I have to win you in a different way, and that interests me. You know some of my work, and yes. I like it. I like the challenge of it because nobody is irredeemable. Well, except maybe. There is something in that's quite challenging and exciting for me still.
Yeah. And did you, I suppose the fear would be that somehow, because there are stories that emerge in this play, not in any, I guess, fully articulated way, but is sort of references to abuse and past sort of, I suppose, violations that they've endured as children, and we all know that trope that they're kind of bitter and tough, but then we understand in the end that they're
irksome, really. It's hard to not get into that treacly, dreadful excusing of one. That the behaviour has to be kind of constantly analysed and recognised and therefore forgiven, whereas there's transgressions on other levels there. There's transgressions in terms of what's feminine and what's female. I like that. I like that even more than I like the poor buggers who've been hurt in care. That's a given. You're in foster care in this country or probably anywhere else, you're more than likely to have been abused. That's just, you probably were abused before you left to go to foster care in the first place. But that stuff is sort of, that's the given. And the other is about women and what women endure and the notion of what's female. And they are testing it. They're testing it in such delightful ways. I like it. If I had the courage, but I like it on the tram. I don't ever get off. I do put my head in and my sunglasses on and my head in my book. No, don't plug in. I'd plug in, but I wouldn't have it on just as long as I look, because they are dangerous and they feel dangerous, and we are really anxious of them. So that's pretty good dramatic material, really.
This is a slight little departure from the play for a second, but I'm just curious, it springs out of what you just said. Do you find, in that situation, women more frightening than men? In that, you know how you can get a pack of women behaving like that, and a pack of guys can be very threatening, but somehow perhaps more predictable in terms of what they may or may not do?
No, I don't.
You don't?
I always go much more frightened of a group of men.
Yeah.
I suppose because it's got the sexual the sexual threat always. And see that's kind of different. It's not like that a group of women can't be sexually combative too, but not quite in the same way. So there's an inbuilt sort of sense of one's at risk, even no matter what age. So no, I don't. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't want to get away with them and I know that I might get biffed. I might definitely get biffed because some of us are not very good fighters. More drop down into a
lovers rather than fighters.
Let's go back to that description. I think it's the thing about our acting schools and our actors, and it's very hard to cast. Really hard. Which a lot of my plays are hard to cast because it's about class. You don't tend to get a lot of. It's funny because at a drama school, one should be talking about voice and about how to transcend class. But if you don't have anybody except middle class teachers and no sense of bringing material that is sort of contesting in terms of your voice and your outlook, because class does permeate the body in really very distinct and subtle ways. And so you kind of when you get some nice young thing talking about, shit. Shit. Nothing but shit. It doesn't kind of work. So it's in the language. I love the language of it. It's exhilarating but you got to hit it tonally right. And it doesn't mean I'm talking about that you can only have working class actors. If only you could, but you can't. But some actors can go there straight away. They recognise it, but there's a tendency to shy away from it. So
well, there's also, that touches on another sort of slightly larger thing about the industry, doesn't it? That in the last 25 years, particularly since education ceased to be free. But also the arts funding, all those sort of things are getting so cut. So the whole idea of anybody who isn't fundamentally middle to upper middle, I don't see them entering in the drama school end of the thing, in a kind of mainstream theatre end. I don't see a lot of people entering that zone that aren't really seriously rich in background. And the reality is, how are you going to make it? How are you going to live if you don't have some sort of trust fund? Whether that, it's a real. I think it's a huge crisis in the theatre. And having gone to drama school at a time when it was free and the industry was much more felt a lot healthier. I compare the kind of people I was training with and the sort of people I now teach, and the class thing is absolutely huge and very, very, in an ongoing way, going to be very tough, I think, for the theatre. Considering
the origins, with Peter Royston, who's actually seeking out men and women who have lived a bit and who it really was attracted to kind of a mixture of people really intent on that, at least initially. So it's changed so much. And it's it's not just the VCA, which is the school we're talking about specifically there, but across the board, I think that it's and I think it's a really big crisis problem for the theatre because it's compressing everything into such a narrow band. And thank God there are people like you who are kicking that. I was just going to say it's a really huge problem for the writers of theatre like that because the mainstream doesn't want to borrow us, so they're nervous that your subscription audience will run a mile. I think it's such a lie. I think the subscription audiences actually really like to be contested, and they don't feel afraid. They're quite analytical and quite learned in their approach to theatre. They're not worried. They're sitting pretty. They can look at the dirt and the crap and not feel cheated. It's quite frightened, the response.
In fact, it can be they can feel quite sort of special. I think, in my experience, they can feel like they've seen something really authentic and
that's right.
Strong.
However, just mainstream put these plays on, for God's sake. A little test every now and then wouldn't hurt.
On that, so let's just say that the Melbourne Theatre Company or the Sydney Theatre Company has programmed this play, and then we open up the brochure and it says "shit" by Patricia Cornelius.
Well, which is sort of what happened with Neon, really, isn't it? I had to say, I'm not having S and those little
little
expedient
stars,
things. If
really,
you
yeah.
can't go with the title, then don't go with it
Yeah.
because it's too silly.
Yeah.
Shit, we're a country who loves swearing and we swear our heads off, and I'm really good at it. I don't know how. It's amazing that I haven't said fuck a million times, but I'm trying to be really
Appealing to a general audience.
But it's such a good title for Neon at the MTC because I love this story where the women at the telephone, well, men and women, but this woman was telling me on the telephone exchange who does the ticketing, and she said that she gets a call from this woman who says, "Could I please have 2 tickets to SHIT?" I said, how's she going to cope when she gets there? And has to have all the fucks and cunts like, what the hell? This is a warning to you.
Just
don't-
built in.
Yeah. But yeah, the title's sometimes embarrassing because it's a bit kind of, there's a sort of infantile thing to it where they go, Patricia, you grow up. Like, naming one place slut and then now you got shit. Next one will be cunt.
Exactly.
You know what
I was going to say please, and then you've got to write poo. It's just like...
I am never going to write a play called Pooh.
The teenage version.
But in some ways it's great to have the provocation, although, this is what it's going to be like for you. If you can't cope with this title, don't come, because this is the language that we've run away from. This is having free rein with the vernacular that these 3 women speak. I'm not going to censor them in any way. I'm not going to use it. I think it's quite delightful. It makes me laugh a lot of the time because you got how many fucks can you fit in that sentence?
But you do quite well on the first page, don't you?
But there's something hopefully playful in the play.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I suppose that the subject matter is, feels like it could in the wrong hands. It could get very weighty and earnest and while one might feel very kind of, those poor women, I'm glad I've got a bit more of understanding of the world. In fact, what you do is so playful and so fundamentally comic. I mean, it does flip, of course, but particularly in the first half of the play, it's very, very funny, the text, and there's and the women are working very hard to keep their ballast up, to keep them, up and alive, and that feels very optimistic, strangely, very sort of. I say strangely because the particular of the situation is unstated, but seems to be very grave. And it's one of the great things about the writing, I think, that you've kind of got this terrible weight that sits under the text, but this beautiful kind of ebullient naughtiness, really, that's skating up the top,
Lovely audacity in it, isn't there? It's fun, I think. I think it's hard to win the Tao or the gravity without, I guess, entertaining in a way. I'm really bad on entertainment. I always go, who gives a shit if it's entertaining or not? But there is a win to it. So when something's just entertaining, I sort of go, I could have stayed and watched something, Biggest Loser, I'll tell you. Something just as entertaining. But this is silly. But it's great to be able to balance it a bit, and so that you keep people there, or not too kind of earnestly meaningful
and
about how shit the world is.
Which we all know. On that thing about vernacular and just the sort of conjuration of those 3 characters, is that something that I'm not asking you if you've drawn them from any particular people, I don't mean that.
Yeah.
But in terms of getting that vernacular so tight and inside the language of the thing, is that have you hung around listening to young women talking, or is that more from your own inside you, or where have you picked up that patois from?
I don't think I hang around people too much listening. I mean, public transport is pretty extraordinary, but I have to sort of think I'm so old now that I've been around for a long time and just seeing I thought you pick up what interests you. I love the language. I love how it frightens us, and I love how it's funny. And it's so emphatic often, and really absolutely passionate, and fueled, and it loses its way. So sometimes people are so off their heads that they forget what they were passionate about in the beginning, and at the end it's sort of kind of all lost, and all that stuff interests me, but it doesn't really interest me just in itself. It's not like a language. I like that the three are distinct, that the voices are distinct, and that there's three very different perspectives about how they're the shit of their lives. I like how they interact, and I like how they disguise a lot of the misery that their lives have been in. I don't even see it as that. That kind of people just live, they kind of endure, and that leak things, and you go, oh my God, you had that happen to you, and it sort of makes a certain sense. But there is this not American saccharine notion of the damage that we kind of exploit a bit.
Movie of the week kind of style.
I like how they are still really strong. They're horrible to each other, and they really attack one another whenever there's any weakness. But at the same time, the strength in them is fabulous. Also, this play came out of looking at from Black Lung and a whole lot of people, mostly young men's groups, doing all sorts of very physical, very powerful work. And so you go and see Thyestes and you go, I loved it. It was mesmerising. But you sort of go, what happened if you just have women on stage? Why is it that we don't have quite the same currency? And why can't we be in our bodies and in our voices and have the power that often you see in especially younger men, but not only, like in Savages, those men are they're 40 or hitting 40. So I was really interested in they're not powerful because they go somewhere deep and vulnerable. Rather than out.
Or noir-esque or any of those other kind of,
And I want them in their bodies, and I want them to take the stage and to kind of have stuff to say and to have bite and have complexity. Despite the language is all full of vernacular, there's great, I think, wit and story in there. But do you know what I mean about the stages? I look at women and I thought, we're still just sort of going, oh, that's just amazing about the man, the major star in the show, and he's always man, it's his story, and we're attached to him, and that's fine. But where's ours? It's like the old feminist thing emerging big time. But I wanted the women to take the stage,
and that is, it is very, very refreshing in the text, that aspect of it, isn't it? It's certainly it was to me. To sort of feel, as you say, that the sort of muscularity, the kind of just here I am, stage is mine, kind of leaps out of every page, which is.
And then you get the additional things from actors where Nikki Wilkes is seamlessly sitting with her legs apart and with a little tiny skirt and a knickers showing her. Even that's taboo. You go, oh my God, gosh, your legs, Nikki. You got to have all this. As a kind of, I'm the writer, and in rehearsal, I'm the more like I could feel like my mother going, oh my, no, that's going too far. And I pull the skirt down, Susie. Get her legs together. There's that whole thing, but it's hilarious. So she got the kind of dare in that, or the audacity in that. Oh, fuck off! I'm not going to close my legs. Big deal.
What the
hell? I've got undies on.
I'm not Sharon Stone.
That's right.
I'm really interested in the choice that you made, which took me more than half the play to spot. That all three of the characters have names that could be men.
All right.
Sam, Bob, and Bill.
I know that you're going to ask this question. I've had this question asked of me before, and I sort of, for the life of me, have kind of made up various reasons, because I just couldn't find girls' names that I felt had there can be female names.
Absolutely,
But I just liked it, and it's sort of something about stealing something from men. You know, well, we'll have your names. You know, if you don't, we're not allowed to have anything else. We'll take your names.
Yeah, no, I suppose that was...
Kylie, you know, Lorraine and Lucy or Molly, wouldn't
but
work.
it's, you know, isn't it interesting, because I agree completely, but, you know, in terms of what you're saying about our received notions of these things, that it does feel completely right that those names are, well, you know, not gendered, I suppose is the best way to put it, because they can be either, and they commonly are either. But as you say, if it was Yvette and Lorraine and Lucy, Kylie, then suddenly, it sort of it stops feeling quite as grounded in some way. Mm. It's a really interesting sort of political question for us all, isn't it? That one.
Sorry, I can't answer it.
No. I guess I was more curious. Than my real question was a sort of slighter question, which is whether that just turned up, or whether you kind of went, "That's what I'm going to do." So clearly, it kind of turned up.
Yeah, I never came up with any others, so it's very odd. But I knew they were right.
Yeah, no, and I mean, just even the kind of poetic shortness of them is right, apart from anything else, don't you think?
Yeah.
Thanks, Patricia.
That's
brilliant.
Pleasure.